Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Joe Staszak, along with my good friend Steve Kallas, right over there. How are you, Steven?
Oh, good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. Always good. It's Football Friday. It is today, and a couple more days, week 4 of the NFL. Or is it week 5? The Eagles are 1-3, so it's going to be week 5. How about that? Interesting game last week. Obviously, a lot of the hype and hoopla around Tom Brady returning to New England. New England, it was coming off a beatdown at the hands of the New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, can't stop anyone, but they have Brady, and I always think with a chip on his shoulder. But close game. I thought Jones was great. I thought the game plan was pretty decent from New England, and it really had Tampa Bay on the ropes. I still think if that kick goes through, Brady wins it with the middle. But, I have no problem with that. But still, didn't cover, and it was a good game. What'd you think?
Well, I'll say this. I think the only smart thing I said about that game last week is the wild card is Bill Belichick, and can he, after 20 years with Brady, come up with some kind of plan to slow him down? And that's exactly what he did. And 25, 50 years from now, when they talk about Belichick and all the great games he coached, they're going to talk about all the Super Bowls and the AFC Championship games. But I think, as we talked last year, they almost beat the Chiefs with Hoyer last year. Yeah. And I said, this is one of the greatest coaching jobs ever. I'll say this about last week. They held Brady to 19 points, no touchdown passes. No. I think those two games, the Chiefs last year and playing Brady and the Bucs defending champions this year, where I certainly thought it would not be close unless Belichick could do something. Belichick did something, made it a scrum game. And, I think Mac Jones is coming of age. That's now 2 games where he's led them down the field. And this one hit the upright, yes, 56 yards, so whatever, but Nick Folk. And then the other one was the fumble late in the game against the Dolphins. They could have won both of those games. And if they're 3-1 as opposed to 1-3, you're looking at them totally different. But I think this is a turning point for the Patriots. I think they can beat just about anybody. I don't know what it is with the Saints. I think the Saints are the weird team. They play the way they play against the Patriots, then they lose to the Giants in overtime. And it's weird, but it's the NFL, as you always say. So I just wanted to point out, I think that's just another incredible coaching job. And in the future, and I don't think anyone will remember these 2 games, but I think coaches should put in the game plan of those games and take a look, because I think you can really learn something from Bill Belichick, even in defeat.
Totally agree with you. I gotta say I was surprised, because I always say when asked, well, what would you go with the coach or the quarterback? Give me the quarterback, especially Brady. But and with a chip on his shoulder, I got to give it to Bill Belichick. Man, did a great job, and of course Brady did enough to win. And Nick Folk, 56 yards away. I still think they would have won the game, but it was entertaining, very entertaining. And I do like Mac Jones, what he's done. He threw the ball a lot, threw it well, went down the field, responded. Thought it was a very good job by New England, very good coaching job, and a pretty good game overall. Tampa still, they don't really, their defense needs to really buckle down like it did in the last half of the last year. But they still, Gronk comes back. I think they'll be in good shape offensively. I want to talk a little bit about, of course, it's my Eagles, but the Chiefs. The Chiefs are really bad defensively. Let me just say that. I'm sitting there, I got to tell you, I'm sitting with Chief fans last week down in Florida at the club. My dad's there watching, we all sat around. You have to reserve your spot to watch your game. A lot of Chiefs fans. He was funny because he was like, every Eagles will get the ball at their own 8-yard line. He'd be like, gotta hold them to 3 here, gotta hold them to 3. I'm like, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. But he was right down the field. Now, if it hadn't been for the Eagles defense giving up 83 points in the last 2 weeks, could have been a lot closer. 3 touchdowns nullified by infractions, but the Chiefs can't stop anyone. Like, what is going on? Now they got Buffalo this week, 2.5-point favorite at home. What's going on with the Chiefs?
Chiefs are in trouble. They got to win shootouts. Mahomes probably knows he has to put up 35 every week. They couldn't stop the run last year. They can't stop anything this year. They're going to be in shootouts. And if someone can find a way to slow them down, they're going to lose a few more games. And it's just shocking to me because everyone focused correctly after last year's Super Bowl on the offensive line. But Brady put up 31 on them in the Super Bowl. And as we talked about at the beginning of the year, the offensive line, improving that might make them even on a shootout basis. So does that mean with a good offensive line last year, Mahomes would have scored 28 or 35? Brady had 31 points after 3 quarters. I'm not saying they slacked off, but their goal wasn't to score touchdowns. Their goal was to kill the clock and score. So I think they're in trouble. Carlton Davis for the Bucs is on the IR now, just another DB who got hurt and can't play. Richard Sherman didn't play particularly well, but if he rounds into shape, he's certainly a piece for the Bucs. But he literally, I think, had to stay on the field virtually the whole game. That couldn't have been the plan.
Right.
Once Carlton Davis gets hurt, he was out there for a lot and he gave up a lot of catches, but he's coming in off his couch. So you got to give him a couple of weeks as well. But the key for the Bucs is going to get healthy can they get healthy in the secondary? I don't think that's the Chiefs' problems. They're not decimated with injuries. They just have a bad defense. And so, again, I think it's going to be up to Mahomes. I don't want to say he's going to have to be Russell Wilson now that the Seattle, not Legion of Boom days, but the recent days where it's like Russell Wilson against whoever they're playing, and the other team is going to score points because Seattle's defense before last night was giving up 445 yards a game. I don't know how much they gave up last night, but, they lost. And now Russell Wilson is hurt. So I think it's going to be shootout city for the Chiefs for pretty much most of the year. And I don't know if they're in a position to win a shootout with Buffalo because Buffalo, they have a good defense. And the question now is becoming all these teams we like for the Super Bowl, whether it's Tampa or the Chiefs or Buffalo, who are Arizona now has scored 30 points every game. They all have real good offenses, but once again, it's going to be like, who's got the defense that's going to step up? I still think it's the Bucs if they get healthy in the secondary. I don't think it's the Chiefs, and it's not going to be the Chiefs. It might be Buffalo. Remember what Kansas City did to Buffalo last year, though. Don't forget that. So I don't know if Buffalo rebounds from that with a chip on their shoulder. That's a huge game this week. It'll be interesting to watch. But I think I'm not an over-under guy, but whatever the number is, I'm playing the over in that game if I was playing it. So just have to wait and see. But I think the Chiefs are in trouble from a Super Bowl perspective. I don't know how they can shore up their defense, although, they've got 14, 15 weeks to do it. We'll see what happens.
Arizona Cardinals. Well, let's talk about the last night's game. The Rams eked out one over the Seahawks. Russell Wilson got hurt. Smith came in. Rams did enough, and of course they beat the Bucs a couple weeks ago, but they got smoked by the Cardinals in Week 4. Cardinals 4-0, about to be possibly 5-0 for the first time since 1974. And it wasn't all about Kyler Murray against the Rams either. So where would you put the Cardinals in terms of the NFL and one of the power rankings, if you will, Steve Kallas power rankings?
Well, it'd be pretty high up there. They'd have to be 1, 2, or 3 at this point. Not totally sold on them when they beat the Vikings 34-33, I think. Mm-hmm. Were they losing to the Jags 19-10 and then they beat them 31-19? I think they were. So you look at stuff like that and you're like, but when you look at everybody now, everybody's weak.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. There's a lot of weak teams, and that's, to me, that's a big problem. So I would rank them. I'd probably rank them 1 right now. I mean, they're undefeated, and I can't say the Chiefs are better or the Bucs are better or maybe Buffalo, but Arizona is either 1 or 2. Probably right now, even though I think Tampa Bay is going to get healthy, I think it would either be Arizona 1, Buffalo 2, or vice versa. We'll know a lot more about Buffalo after they play the Chiefs. But Arizona looks like they're good. Kyler Murray is an early MVP candidate, no doubt about that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, they're in the very high echelon so far. But I think also their defense is a little suspect but just not as suspect as the Chiefs. And right now, the Bucks, because they have no secondary. I mean, they got Dean is out. I mean, they got 3 or 4 guys who are out, and they're playing guys off the practice squad. And again, they signed Richard Sherman off the street. I don't think he's going to be Richard Sherman, but if he's a good cornerback, he's probably the best DB they have right now. And that's a little scary for Tampa Bay.
Our buddy from the Daily News, Philadelphia Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, Marcus Hayes, came out today with a story about Nick Sirianni and how behind closed doors, just, pretty much, Operation Scorched Earth, his defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, who came out this week and said, well, we don't really have a scheme and whatnot. After game 1, where they looked really sharp and buttoned up against Atlanta, it has really unraveled. And this is why I said 6-11, and now I think that might be generous. You're talking about a first-year head coach, a first-year defensive coordinator, a guy who had a cup of coffee as an offensive. These are all first-year guys. And I don't love the talent around them either. And, they're learning on the job, but this is 83 points in the last 2 weeks, really? What do you think of what's going on in terms of the implosion right now in Philadelphia?
Well, normally you have, and you know this, when you have a young 40-year-old rookie head coach, you usually have those grizzled veterans as both offensive and defensive coordinators. I don't know what the theory was here. We need a whole new group of guys with no experience. And that's, you're looking for, and even though he's a head coach now, you're looking for like a Vic Fangio type guy.
Right.
Or a Todd Bowles type guy. Guys who have been around, maybe guys who have been head coaches, who are great coordinators and maybe not so good as head coaches. And to throw it all in now on essentially a rookie quarterback. I know he played a few games last year. It's just a recipe for disaster. And you're also, as on an ownership group, you're in the wrong city to try that. You don't try that in Philly. You don't try that in New York. You don't try that in Boston. You just don't. You don't try that in Washington. Just go up and down the Northeast corridor, for lack of the 95 corridor. It's just too tough. You might be able to do it in Jacksonville. Urban Myer is getting killed, but he seems so ill prepared that he's even getting killed in Jacksonville. Imagine if he was in Philly or New York or Boston or Washington. He might have been fired already. My son said he heard a rumor that if he loses this week, and he's probably going to lose this week, that he might get fired. That to me would then say, I don't know if they're keeping the USC job open for him. I don't think it's been filled yet. But there were those rumors initially, and he was like, no, I'm not going there. But do you believe those guys when they say, no, I'm not going there? You believe them till they're going there.
I've always thought, in terms of college football, Nick Saban's up there, all-timer. Guy used to coach Bama with the hat. I'm spacing on his name.
Bear Bryant?
Thank you. And I thought Urban Myer winning a couple championships at 2 different colleges, everywhere he goes in college. But he does something's wrong with him. Something is just not wired correctly. Like, you saw the video. How are his grandkids doing at home, getting baths and whatever? And he's out. Come on. Like, he comes home and he's like, oh, how was your night? Or, oh, it was good. Yeah, we just had some drinks and blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, USA Today the next morning, got video of Urban Myer, girls dancing on his lap with his hands in precarious places. Come on, man. Like really, even the owner came out and said, inexcusable. We got to earn his trust back. He's been there 4 games.
Maybe he's looking for the door.
My goodness.
Maybe it's a fire me. I'll take the USC job. I'll be a superstar in a year or 2 again. Because he needs to, I don't see how he lasts more than 1 year if he lasts 1 year. But he needs to get right back up on the college horse, I think, to save whatever of his reputation he'll have. The other thing I'll say, I didn't hear this, but my son said that Urban Myer said playing in the NFL is like playing Alabama every week. Well, what do you think it was going to be?
You think
it was going to be playing Mercer every week? What did you think? So he really was ill-equipped for the job. And Trevor Lawrence someday may be a star, but you knew they had a bad team. There's a reason they had the number 1 pick. They won their first game last year and they lost their next 15. And I remember just 4 or 5 years ago, was it, when they should have beat the Patriots in the playoffs? And I remember the next year thinking, should I pick the Jaguars or the Patriots to win the AFC? And I was like, yeah, I better pick the Patriots. And the Jaguars fell off a cliff. They got rid of Tom Coughlin. Whatever you think of him, he wasn't the coach. He was the president of whatever.
Yeah.
But it was Coughlin many years ago who got them as an expansion team, went 14-2, went to the Giants, won 2 Super Bowls. That's why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame some point. And I just think Jacksonville is now as dead a place as you can be. Whatever you think of Trevor Lawrence, they even asked Trevor Lawrence, what do you think about what Urban Myer said about the video? And he just totally danced around it. I don't really have a reaction. He's the coach. I'm just trying to play my best for this team. But he's kind of overmatched, not because he won't be a good NFL quarterback, just because he has very little help. So the Jaguars are in deep trouble. Urban Myer is in deep trouble. But, I think Trevor Lawrence, you can't really, if he has a bad year, a lot of rookie quarterbacks have had a bad year. And frankly, all the ones this year to me are having a bad year, except Mac Jones is playing well. And you got to get a little beneath the surface because they're 1-3. But he does look like, and I'm sure it was Saban going to Belichick, this guy might be the one. And somehow he fell to 15.
Right.
And somehow Belichick got away with that, with not moving up, having to pay something. And I think they still have a chance to make the playoffs, but they've got a very tough schedule. And the question really is, can Mac Jones really lift his game? Or is he only going to play well within the context of playing like a good team, like the Bucs? But I think he's here to stay. I think they're a good team. Their wide receiver core is still not very good. Maybe Aguilar, their tight ends are good. Maybe Aguilar, I don't know. But, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, Urban Myer, you really want to go, what the hell are you thinking? And I think the answer is, I'm not thinking.
You're not thinking.
I'm sorry, I'm not thinking. I'll start thinking now.
Oh my God, it's just so embarrassing. Anyway, all right, let's do some picks because we've been rolling along a little bit. I was 1-2 last week, and I actually have 4 picks this week. But I'll let you go first, brother. How you doing?
Yeah.
Did we know?
Yeah, we did. So I was 1-2 as well. The Chiefs, yes. The Titans and the Bucs, no. But I'm coming right back with I like Tennessee over Jacksonville, 4.5. AJ Brown is going to play. Julio Jones is still a game time decision. I think if they had either one of them last week, it would have been a different, they put 8 or 9 in the box. They still didn't stop. They didn't really stop Derrick Henry. I think he had like 150 yards, but the Jets are not bad against the run. The Jaguars are. So I think he's going to have a field day. I saw a stat. He's averaged over 100 yards a game against the Jaguars and 5.5 yards per carry. And that's without a wide receiver. Tannehill isn't a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He played well that one year, so he got one of those Joe Flacco contracts, I call them. If you're a quarterback and you play right at the right time.
Yeah.
Who was the guy who played okay for Denver for like 10 games and got Brock who?
Oh, yeah, and he got like
72 million for 4 years. So more so than any other position, if a quarterback plays well for the short period of time. Now, Flacco played great in the playoffs and won the Super Bowl, but those were the greatest 4 games he ever played.
Yeah.
And so that's how these quarterbacks are getting their money, but then you have to have the conversation, are they really good? But I still so I'm going to take the Titans -4.5 at Jacksonville. I just don't think Jacksonville can stop the run, and I just think they're a mess. And even if they only get AJ Brown back, he's a weapon, and I think they'll be fine. I'm also going to go at Carolina, 3 over the Eagles. I understand the Eagles put a lot of points up on the boards and left it, but it's against, I hate to say it, but it's against the Chiefs defense. And Carolina has a pretty good defense, but the reason I'm picking them is because McCaffrey is supposed to come back. And if he comes back in any form, and he only missed a game, right? I think he only missed 1 game, maybe 2, 1.5, whatever. Oh, because he got hurt in the middle of the game. If he can go, then A, I think he can kill the Eagles, but B, that's going to open up the passing game for Sam Darnold, who looks like a better than average NFL quarterback. So I like them. And then finally, I am going to take the Patriots at Houston, -9. If Bill Belichick can shut down Tom Brady in 19 points and the way Brady played is a shutdown, I think he's going to have some fun with Davis Mills, who I think threw for what did he throw for? Less than 100 yards and 4 picks last week.
It was bad.
So the Texans are a mess. I guess they won't play. They're not going to play their quarterback. They're going to pay him, but not play him. That's a decision. Nobody knows what's happening with him. Is he going to be traded? Seems to be like 5 teams who could use him, but maybe they don't want to take him because he's going to get suspended. But yeah, so those are my 3 picks. I'll say them again. Patriots -9 at Houston, at Carolina -3 at Philly, Tennessee -4.5 at Jacksonville. How about you?
I'm going to go, and besides the ones we talked with off the air, well, I'm going with Carolina. They're better. I thought they'd be good this year. They're pretty strong. They hung in with Dallas without McCaffrey. The line dropped a little bit. Not sure why it was 4.5 to 3, but again, I like to also look at the teams they're playing, and the Eagles are a mess on the road, injury plagued. I don't know about Lane Johnson with this personal thing. I don't know what's going on. They're kind of a mess. So I'm going with Carolina with you. This line looks a little goofy. I might be making a mistake here, but the Chargers, who I love this year, and they've done well for me, are a 2-point favorite over the Browns at home, and Baker Mayfield has a little bit of a torn labrum. It seems like that line is a little low. It might be telling me something, but I'll get sucked into this one. I'm going to go with the Chargers. And then I'm sorry. I think the Bills are one of the top 3 teams in the league. I need the Chiefs to prove something to me. They're giving points. It might be another line that I might get screwed myself on, but until they show me something, I'm going to go with the Bills over the Chiefs because the Chiefs can't stop anyone until I see them stop someone. And I know it was only 19-0 at the half last week against the Texans, and then the interceptions, and they made it 40-0, made it look worse. But I've seen them blow. After one game this year, I can't remember, maybe with the opener. I mean, they blew the doors off the Dolphins 35-0, killed the Redskins, put up a lot of points, 40-0 over the Texans. I'm going to ride the Bills for a while. So that's what I got right. I got the Chargers, Bills, and Carolina, my friend. Also 1-2 last week, 7-6 for the year. So looking forward to that. Chris Taylor the other night just made me, it reminded me why I love baseball playoffs again. It was just phenomenal stuff. The stolen base right before that. And then this guy's been in a slump. He's a utility guy. It was like the perfect textbook swing if you watch a replay of it. And he just crushed it, walk off and place, it was just phenomenal. Now, I don't know how far they'll get. It's going to be interesting with the Giants, and I'll give you my pick in a little bit. But as a viewer, the one and done, I don't think it's fair. You got a 106 win team versus a 90 win team, and you gotta eke one out. But it is pretty, I like the one and done, and it was a lot of pageantry and pomp and circumstance. Same with, the Yankees game didn't really deliver, but the Dodgers game did. Like, well, what do you think? Well, going ahead against this is a team won 106 games and didn't come into first. The Giants win 107. What's the problem?
It's really been you got to give credit to 2 guys who are not playing well. Bellinger had a horrific season. Remember, I think it was when he hurt his shoulder. Remember, he celebrated and he got a serious injury. I think it was his shoulder. And he was terrible this year. 10 home runs. I don't even think he hit 200. But I give him credit. He drew the walk. He stole second for the second time in that game. And you usually don't steal on their catcher, as you know.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Molina.
But right. And Chris Taylor actually was starting and played so poorly towards the end of the year that he lost his starting job. But he's a very good player. He came off the bench, got one that he crushed. So give them credit. But you're right. Can you imagine that was 1-1? Can you through 8.5? Can you imagine if they lost to the Cardinals, who had 40-year-old Wainwright pitch a good game? Scherzer pitched well. He looked pretty upset that they took him out. But, I kind of think the Dodgers should at least have a chance to beat the Giants. And I actually did as you know, I have a nice baseball preview up with our Cleveland buddies, Rick Morris and Ken Detweiler. And before the year, I did one with them and picked the White Sox to beat the Dodgers. But I thought now I will change from the beginning of the year to the beginning of the playoffs. The White Sox have such a horrific run. It's a bad matchup for them with the Astros because they lost 5-2 during the regular season and got outstatted on everything against them. And the Astros, whatever we think of them, biggest cheaters of all time. I'm a little sick. I'll talk briefly about the Yankees, Red Sox in a minute, but Cora with the great job. No, you're one of the biggest cheaters in the history of
Yeah, I
baseball.
know, right?
And you're the manager, you should at least know better. Maybe
Right.
as a player, you can get sucked in, and that's just kind of all gone away. AJ Hinch and the Tigers. Oh, he did a great,
Right.
but whatever. But Houston, I think they're a bad matchup. So I picked Houston, much as it hurt me to beat the White Sox. But I have Tampa Bay going all the way and beating the Dodgers in the World Series. And I analogized, I wonder what you'll think of this. I said playing Tampa Bay, even though it's baseball, to me, it's like playing Jim Boeheim in the Syracuse zone because you don't see it all year. You don't see what Tampa Bay does. And especially in the World Series where they haven't played the Dodgers or the Giants in interleague, it's just so weird to watch them. And when you think about the Red Sox and the Yankees fighting and Toronto right behind them, it's like you forgot these guys were 10 games in front of everybody. And I was watching the same thing last night. You're watching these guys who are pitching and you're like, McClanahan, who are these guys? They got a guy who I saw pitch against the Yankees, Baz, I think B-A-Z. He's got like 15 innings in the major leagues and he's 2-0 and he shut the Yankees down that game that the Yankees had to win. And I wrote on my Facebook group, maybe the Yankees should have lost because then Garrett Cole would have pitched against anybody but the Red Sox. And then you would have had somebody pitch against the Red Sox, anybody else, because I thought maybe they could turn it around because the last time, and this is only September 24th, they got 7 earned off of Eovaldi in 2 2/3. And Cole pitched like 6 innings of 3-run baseball, quality start, which you and I don't think is a quality start.
Right.
But the numbers before that were horrific. He had given up, 5 home runs. His ERA before was like 6.19. And now after his 7, he gave up 7 home runs in Fenway and 3 starts. The numbers were terrible unless you bought into the last one where the Red Sox guy gave up 7 earned and Cole gave up 3 in 6 innings, I think, maybe even 7 innings. But Cole came up very small. You really got to question, 320 million. He's come up small a few times this year.
Yeah.
In big games for the Yankees. So, but it still irks me to see Houston. I didn't want to pick them, but they're still good.
Very good.
And they easily handled the White Sox in game 1. And Tampa Bay easily handled again, Tampa Bay is 10 games better than whoever it was, the Red Sox or the Yankees or Toronto. And they're just so hard to play against. And, I think Houston's going to win pretty easily. And I think Tampa Bay is going to win pretty easily. Dodgers Giants is a slugfest. I picked the Dodgers. Who knows? They lose a little because Scherzer had to pitch the play-in game. And Scherzer's your guy. Everybody, we lost Kershaw. And you know what I think of Kershaw in the playoffs. Just go look at the record. Buehler's the guy. Walker Buehler is the guy. And has been the guy in the playoffs, frankly. So, I did pick the Dodgers to come out of the National League. Love what Atlanta did. Amazing they won. But I like the Brewers. But I think that's a series to lose to the winner of the Dodgers Giants. As you said, 107 and 106 wins, kind of unfathomable nowadays in one division in the National League or even in the American League if it happened. So yeah, that's who I got. Just one mention about the Yankee game, that famous play. Yankees down 3-1. They had scored a run. I think Garrizzo had hit a home run that inning. Judge is on first. Stanton hits a home run off the green monster. Lucky it was the Red Sox because the center fielder knows you got to come over and help on the carom. And the carom came to him, went by the left fielder. It was Kiki Hernandez, picked up the ball, bounced it to Bogarts, who caught the ball 5 feet out of the infield, turned around and threw out Judge by 5 feet. So you got this guy, Phil Nevin, and every time he made a mistake this year, and he made a bunch, but we're being aggressive. We're an aggressive team. We're being aggressive. And after the game, Boone couldn't even say that. It was so stupid. And I'll just say this. I wish somebody had asked somebody, I don't know if you can research this, in the history of watching games in Fenway Park, in every game ever played in Fenway Park, did anybody ever score from first on something hit off the green monster? I've never seen it. And again, Judge got thrown out by 5 feet.
Yeah.
And everyone, oh, it had to be a perfect throw. Well, hold it now. The first throw from the outfield bounced.
Right.
And the second throw was literally a throw from deep shortstop.
Deep short.
If he caught a ground ball there, he could throw a guy out at first.
Yes.
So, a perfect throw. Well, yeah, it was from like 120 feet. Usually in a real game, as you know, where there's no green monster, the shortstop is 50 feet out.
Right.
He was like 50 inches out.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to be funny. He made that throw. I think on his follow through, he stepped on the infield dirt.
Yeah. I think he
Now,
did.
it was a perfect throw. Don't get me wrong, but what are you talking about? The throw from the outfield was a bounce, so he should have had a big advantage there. And the second throw, which you shouldn't have an advantage, is just past the infield dirt. So Phil Nevin, you know, we've talked about it for years, Joe. It is much, 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 much harder to be a third base coach than it is to be a manager. You have to make the decision like that. Now, this was a moronic decision, even like that. You should have it in your head, unless something freakish happened, like if it went by the center fielder, or maybe even on the bounce throw, if it bounced by Bogarts. You know, oh, I know. Here's what Aaron Boone said after the game. Oh, yeah, I think Phil thought it was going to be a short hop, and it was kind of maybe, and it was going to go by him. No. Watch the replay. The throw was so bad. Maybe he meant to one hop it, but it's from the short wall
Right.
to second base, essentially. It was not a good throw. It was a terrible throw, but it also was not a short hop. It was so bad, it was an easy hop. And I just, now, would they have won? You can't say that, but they would have had second and third and 1 out. And there's Tim Kirkjian. Oh, I can't blame that. I don't know if the Yankees would have won. Gallo was up next. And he's right. Gallo has struck out like 210 times this year, but he's also got 38 homers. When Zunino gets up for the Rays, they go, he's a horrible hitter, but he's got 33 home runs. This is the new baseball. Mm-hmm. This is okay. In fact, this is good, I guess, analytically. I don't really know. So to say that wasn't a gigantic play in the game, you've just scored a run. It's 3-1. You would have had second and third and 1 out, and not just Gallo, but whoever's up after Gallo, who I don't remember, but would be a good hitter in the Yankee lineup. I think that was a colossal blunder. Will it cost him his job? I'll just say this. After watching him all year, he should not be coaching third. You got to be able to do that. Very few people. You can sit in the dugout and you can talk to your bench coach and you can have a minute or 2 or 5 or 30 seconds. You can go out to the mound and get 2 minutes more to decide. But the third base coach, man on second, single up the middle. And the one final thing I'll say, I'm getting off on the coaching thing, but over the last 5 or 10 years now, coaches run 30, 40 feet down the baseline. We've talked about this as well. You're rounding second, running to third base is right here. Nowadays, your third base coach is 30, 40 feet over there. When you turn to look at him, there's no chance you can run as quickly as if you're looking at third. Mm-hmm. This was done so third base coaches could give themselves another second or 2. Mm-hmm. And even in that case, it still wasn't enough for Nevin to understand the obvious. Ball goes off the wall. Something that, the Bogarts has to fall down. Right. The ball has to go by the center fielder. Right. It has to be something horrific. Don't tell me maybe it was going to be a short hop. Now, he didn't say that. I don't know if they let him talk to the media. But, of course, he's getting slaughtered in New York, as he should. And at a minimum, if he comes back next year, assuming Boone comes back, that's a big assumption. Right. He's won nothing. Nothing. Girardi got extended because he won the 1 year. 1 year when they bought the World Series, right? It was Teixeira and Sabathia, and I forget who. They bought somebody else. That was a purchased World Series. But whatever, I've spoken too much about the Yankee game. And again, I'm not saying they would have won. Give Boston credit because nobody thought they'd be anywhere. But I'm on the fence when the manager, who I guess deserves credit, one of the biggest cheaters and in management, not even the player, in the history of baseball. He shouldn't have got the pass he got. He disappeared for barely a year, and then he got retired. AJ Hinch as well. Oh, I broke the TV. What do you want me to do? I broke the TV. I don't want to go there, but I hope the Astros get knocked out, and I certainly hope they don't win the World Series. But, they're a very good team. Don't take anything away from them. But I still like Tampa. My final thing for Tampa was, don't forget, their 3-star pitchers last year, they're all gone. Charlie Morton, Blake Snell,
Yeah,
and Glasnow, who's on I think he's gotten Tommy John, but none of them are there. The three guys that are pitching, you barely heard of them.
right.
Barely heard of them. But the guy McClanahan pitched great yesterday. They have these guys. I don't know if it's part of their scouting, but they have these guys who are steely. Nothing scares them. They're rookies pitching in the playoffs. And so far, it doesn't matter. And I don't think it's going to matter with the other two guys. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm saying, they're going to be cool under pressure, I think. It's just incredible. I don't know if it's something in how they scout. You can never scout. I apologize for that. I turned it off. They say you can't measure the heart of a guy, but somehow they get these guys. I don't know if it's heart, but certainly their ability to withstand pressure and pitch well under pressure. Guys who literally have 13 innings, they put up the starts. I think among the three of them, they have like 35 major league starts combined, and one of them had 25. So you're putting up guys with no playoff experience. No, although I should say McClanahan, who has the 25 starts, he actually pitched last year in the playoffs as a rookie and that was his first start in the majors in the playoffs. And he didn't do as well, but he at least has that experience. But it doesn't look to me like these guys are going to be phased. It's just, they're tough. So I like Tampa Bay all the way.
I like Tampa over San Francisco. You wanted a stat you wanted to throw at me at the end of the show, and
yes,
let's hear it.
Okay, this is a stat I just saw. I kind of like these stats, especially when you consider the company. And the question at the end for you will be, who did it this year? In the history of baseball, in one season before this season, only three guys have done the following in one season: had 35 or more homers, 40 or more doubles, 100 or more runs scored, and 100 or more walks. The three guys who have done it before this year are none other than Babe Ruth, Stan Musial, and Barry Bonds. And I'll put an asterisk next to Barry Bonds because I always do. The question is, who in baseball this year did that?
I'm going to go with a hometown guy. Would he be the right fielder?
Bryce Harper.
How about
Now,
that?
that's pretty good. But I will say this: Bryce Harper to me was an MVP candidate, but only if the Phillies made the playoffs.
That's an amazing stat, by the way.
Amazing stat.
Who were
Four
the
guys:
Babe Ruth, who else? Who were the other two?
Stan Musial
Oh,
and Barry Bonds when he was
yeah.
asterisk Barry Bonds. That's all I'll say. So for him to do it, and almost led them to the playoffs. Obviously, we're joking. They were in there for the third wild card or whatever. They haven't solved it in Philly either. It's and meanwhile, Gabe Kapler is laughing in San Francisco. I don't know how much they would snap. I read a few articles that said every guy, especially the older guys, Posey didn't play last year because of COVID. And that's the best thing that can happen to like a 36-year-old catcher, I think. And so, but all those guys who are older, they all had career years. Brandon Belt, Crawford, Posey, they all played great. And I'm not knocking that. Don't get me wrong, but everybody killed Kapler last year, including us, or 2 years ago, I guess. Was it 2 years ago now?
2 years ago.
And Joe Girardi, who is a good major league manager. I don't think he's great. I think Buck Showalter should get a job now. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything old is new again. Tony La Russa, whatever you think of him, he's in the playoffs. He had the best team in the bad division, and I don't think they're going to beat Houston. But I feel bad for Buck. I think he's a Hall of Fame manager, but he has to leave town for you to win a World Series.
Right.
He left the Yankees, and Joe Torre suddenly became a Hall of Fame manager after being a terrible manager.
Right.
He left Arizona, and Bob Brenly became a World Series manager after he left. He's a good manager, Buck Showalter. I hope he gets a job because I'd like to see him win a World Series because then he will be a Hall of Fame manager. I don't know if you need one or not. I think Joe Madden is without question a Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah, I like Joe Madden.
So Kevin Cash has kind of continued. I thought it was Joe Madden was a big part of that, which he was. But Kevin Cash has continued that. On the thing I did with Rick and Ken, it's up Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. He's the FDH Lounge guy, as you know. I was just saying a lot of stuff about these managers and these coaches, but I'll say it again. I think Tampa Bay is so rare in the context of baseball. I think it's got to be like you're that first team playing Boeheim, playing his zone for the first time because you haven't played him 2 or 3 times during the year. And it's a similar kind of thing because nobody plays like Tampa Bay. Nobody consistently uses an opener, for example, I'm going to say 50% of the time. I mean, and they have so many guys who play. They put in Joey Wendell late in the game yesterday. I'm like, man, I forgot about Joey Wendell. He's really good. They just have these guys. They got Austin Meadows, who batted 7th or 8th all year. That's where he batted all year. He had 106 RBIs, batting 7th or 8th. Who does that? So they got a guy like Zunino, who's, hitting one whatever, but they had 33 homers. That's the new look. You saw how the batting averages went down.
Yeah.
The major league batting average this year was 244. I think it's the lowest it's been in decades.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess before they lowered the mound after the Bob Gibson 1.12 year of the pitcher. So baseball's a different game now. I don't particularly like it, but I think the Rays within baseball being a different game, and they were the first one with the analytics. Madden was the first guy to play the shift.
Yeah.
It took the league 2 or 3 years to catch up. But you got to give Tampa Bay credit because even today with no money, they have no money.
No.
They put up the payrolls. I don't remember what they were, but they had maybe a little more than half of what the Yankees and the Red Sox had. Incredible. So it's incredible. Give them credit because they're still doing it, even though everybody does what they do now. It's not Billy Beane in the A's. You can tell me he invented it because it's Tampa Bay. To me, they perfected it. They got to the finals last year. Kevin Cash lost his mind. What I said was it'll be interesting if Kevin Cash has the same decision to make this year. Will he make that decision again? Now, he might say, all these guys are rookies. There was no Blake Snell out there. But when Blake Snell was out there last year, as you know, that's one of the dumbest things he's ever done. And he said he'd do it again. He's Pete Carroll. Oh, yeah, I would have thrown the ball again in that Super Bowl. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. So these guys are idiots, but you only hope for the day when the same exact thing comes up. That could happen in the playoffs for Tampa Bay. We'll see what happens.
We shall see. Great stuff, bud. You can catch Steve stuff on his Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports with Steve Kallas, you can find this podcast same place. You can also watch his videos, westchestercountypost.com on YouTube. But this will be on YouTube every week as long as my Facebook forum page. You can follow me on Twitter at Staszak4799. Great stuff, Steven. We'll keep an eye on things this weekend, and I'll be checking in with you. Have a great week, my friend, and appreciate everything.
You too, Joe. Always a pleasure.
You too, man. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.